Immigration protections are at issue this week in a debate between Denver Mayor Michael Hancock and federal authorities. The Department of Justice sent letters to Denver and 22 other governments requesting proof that the city is not withholding information about detained immigrants. This issue made headlines the same week that Mayor Hancock decided to not attend a White House function. Patty, we saw a lot of headlines about this, first about an invitation and declining the invite on Twitter. Is Mayor Hancock picking a right fight?
Well, he's not alone in this fight. You know, a year ago, when we first were hearing about the whole sanctuary city argument, the mayor was kind of waffling on whether or not Denver was sanctuary or just simply welcoming. And the fact was, by federal definition and ICE's definition, Denver was a sanctuary city and remains a sanctuary city. So that debate went on for a while, and then in August, we finally had the proclamation. We did officially decide what we were going to do to not have city employees comply with ICE requests, which are unconstitutional. I mean, we have to remember that you are not supposed to go into courthouses and snag people who are trying to see that justice is done. I mean, David's talked about that very eloquently. So good that Hancock, after some waffling last year, was very strong on this, but he wasn't alone. I mean, he was in D.C. with a mayor's group, and several people decided they were not going to go to the White House over this.
Michael, it's 2018, it's an election year, and immigration, as always, is a big topic. But when you see Mayor Hancock take this stand, does it pit Denver against other parts of Colorado who might be looking at immigration a little bit differently? And does it have some political ramifications, especially in a year like this?
I think it does. I mean, I think it's a political calculation that Mayor Hancock was making here. But let's remember, you know, on one hand, the Trump administration said they were going to go after sanctuary cities. On the other hand, Denver City Council last year came out and said that, you know, basically they weren't going to go along with, you know, asking people their immigration status after they're arrested. And so this showdown was going to happen. It was kind of set up to happen, and it'll continue. I think it'll escalate. But also remember, this isn't happening in a vacuum, right? So you have frustration by some people about there being no DACA fix. You have frustration over on the other side of there's no wall being built right now. And so both sides are very passionate about immigration issue. I think they both think it's a political winner for their base. But I would have to say I am disappointed with Mayor Hancock and how he handled it. I think that he, you know, is entitled to his opinion. He should have showed up to the White House, had a discussion, shared with you know, the Trump administration what he disagreed with. I think it sets a bad precedent to say, look, if we disagree with you, we're not even going to show up and have this conversation. And I don't think that he has to run up and you know, give President Trump a hug like Chris Christie gave Obama. But I think Denver citizens would expect the mayor to do everything that they can and not have those other political ramifications and really, you know, voice his opinion, but at least have dialogue.
Pam, one of my favorite scenes from the Band of Brothers miniseries was a part where the main character, Winters, said, "Hey, you salute the rank, not the man." Is this a situation where Mayor Hancock should have saluted the office, but not necessarily the man?
I don't think that's a requirement. You know, this is an invitation, and invitations by definition can be accepted or declined. This mayor declined for a variety of reasons, and he articulated them. There's an interesting thing about this whole debate that's going on, and I think the mayor is probably in good company. And although I'm sure there was a political calculation, I think his position is not only reflective of where Denver is, I think it's reflective of where the state is for a variety of reasons. We have a heavy reliance on our agricultural industry and economy, and a lot of that is driven by immigrant labor forces. And so even in rural Colorado, they've got some issues with some of these mandates, particularly, you know, it's interesting, this kind of flips on its head the whole notion of states' rights, how it's been argued in the past. Now you have the federal government saying immigration enforcement is our responsibility. We're articulating a new policy. We don't have the money to implement the new policy we're articulating. So we're telling you, local governments, that we're basically appropriating your money and making you spend your local and state taxpayer dollars to implement a policy we want to see enforced. And I think local governments and states have a right to say, no, if you want to do this, fine, you finance it, you staff it, you do it, and particularly when courts have indicated that some of the things you're doing are illegal, we don't have to go there. We feel we're fully compliant with federal law now, and if you want to implement a different policy, knock yourselves out, but you have to pay for it. And so I think in a way the mayor and other mayors are protecting their local constituents by taking that stand.
John, let's piggyback on that point. Is Mayor Hancock and the City Council taking the appropriate stand for the citizenry of Denver?
I think so. Everybody has kind of danced around everything. This is fear-mongering. This is distraction. You know, the White House has so many different issues that it's going through right now, not only with immigration, but with marijuana. This is akin to that. And so, again, it's states' rights issues. I just think, you know, the photo op that the president wanted these mayors to take part in, I think Hancock was perfectly right, and I think the other mayors were as well, to just say, you know what, head off to Switzerland or Sweden or wherever you're going.